Okay, let's talk about something I think pretty much all of us can relate to. I want to start by asking you a couple of really honest questions.
Just think about that for a second. When was the last time you said yes, but you felt that little knot in your stomach? That quiet voice telling you that you were going against what you really wanted?
Maybe it was taking on an extra project at work you just didn't have the bandwidth for, or agreeing to some social event you were absolutely dreading, all because the thought of letting someone down just felt worse than giving up your own time and your own energy.
So if any of that is ringing a bell, you are definitely not alone. What we're really talking about here is the people pleaser mindset, and it's like a silent trap. On the outside, it looks like you're just being super kind and helpful, but deep down, the real driver isn't just generosity. It's usually fear.
Okay, so what is this trap really? Let's break it down and get a clear definition, because you can't fix a problem until you really understand it.
Right, so this is about so much more than just being nice. The key thing here, the engine that drives this whole behavior, is fear. It's that deep-seated fear of rejection if you say no, that feeling of guilt if you try to set a boundary, or just the fear that someone won't like you anymore.
And this really gets to the heart of the internal conflict, doesn't it? It's like you're constantly in this negotiation, trading your own peace of mind just to keep things smooth on the outside. You end up being the yes person, the super reliable one, but inside there's a little voice just begging you, please, just say no this once.
Now, what's really important to get is that this isn't some kind of personality flaw. It's not who you are. It's a learned behavior. So where does it actually come from? Well, the psychology behind it is pretty fascinating.
For a lot of us, this stuff starts way, way back in childhood. It's when we get the message that love and approval are conditional. You hear things like, be a good boy, or don't upset your mom, and you start to learn that your value comes from making other people happy. You accidentally internalize this really dangerous lesson, that your needs aren't as important as everyone else's, and that love is something you have to constantly earn.
Just let that sink in for a second. We tell ourselves we're just being kind, right? But this quote, it just reframes the whole thing. If being kind to others always means you're hurting yourself, if it's draining your energy and causing you pain, then it's not actually kindness. It's self-abandonment.
All right, so how do you know if you're really caught in this pattern? Let's go through some of the big warning signs. As we go, just see if any of these sound a little familiar.
That first one is a big one, isn't it? That immediate wave of guilt that hits you the second you try to say no. Or how about apologizing for things that aren't even your fault? Or that feeling of constantly walking on eggshells to avoid conflict. And where does it all lead? Well, usually to being completely exhausted and honestly a little resentful because you're giving and not feeling appreciated.
Look, if you saw yourself in any of that, I really need you to hear this. It does not mean you're weak, not at all. It just means you learned a survival strategy. And hey, it probably worked for you at some point, but it just isn't serving you anymore. You were taught that love isn't a given, it's something you have to earn by always putting others first. Okay, so we've talked about what the problem is and where it comes from. Now for the really important part. What do we do about it? How do we actually start to break this pattern? Let's walk through some practical steps.
So this isn't about flipping a switch and becoming a new person tomorrow. It's a process. First step, just pause. Before that automatic yes comes out of your mouth, take a breath and ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Then you start small. You don't have to say no to your biggest client on day one. Practice with small things. Build that muscle. Step 3 is all about emotional boundaries, realizing it's not your job to manage everyone else's feelings. And step 4, this one's tough. You have to accept that it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort, that's a sign of growth. And finally, the big one, relearning your self-worth. It's about getting back to the truth that you are worthy of love just for being you, not for what you do for people.
So, what's on the other side of all this work? What does life actually look like when you move away from people-pleasing and towards something more authentic? Let's take a look.
I love this because it shows the shift so clearly. This isn't about becoming selfish, it's about becoming honest. So instead of saying yes out of fear, you learn to say no with respect. Instead of just avoiding a little conflict right now, you're actually building real trust for the long haul. You stop pouring from an empty cup and start protecting your energy. And that means when you do give, it's real. It leads to authenticity, not resentment. I mean, just think about that metaphor. It's so powerful. You really can't pour from an empty cup. If you're completely drained, what do you have left to give anyone? And the truth is, real relationships, the healthy ones we all crave,
They don't demand that you exhaust yourself to maintain them. And really, if you take away just one thing from all this, I hope it's this. You weren't put on this earth to please everyone. That's not your job. Your job is to live your own life, truthfully and authentically.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought. It doesn't matter how long you've been stuck in this pattern. It doesn't matter how deep it feels. Please remember, it is never, ever too late to start choosing yourself.